The murders have begun. Trinidad records 2 for 2021 in Morva and Mokoya. After spending close to a year outside of Trinidad, one stranded national has harsh words for the exemption process. Out of the darkness and into the light, the community comes together to help a family heal from tragedy.
And in sport, it's going to be a busy year for the West Indies as 4 teams are set to visit the Caribbean.
Good evening, I'm Ryan Beju. This is the weekend news here on CNC3. So glad you can join us on a Saturday night. Top of the news. A Morva man is the first murder victim for 2021. 50-year-old Daryl Villafana was hacked to death in front of his daughter and infant granddaughter by 2 masked men who entered his home around 4 a.m. on New Year's Day. After pleading with the killers to spare her life as she pointed to her newborn who lay asleep on the nearby bed, Villafana's daughter watched helplessly as her father's killers walked to a waiting vehicle and spoke amongst themselves before driving off. Recounting how terrified she was when she burst into his home begging for help, Villafana's elder brother, Russell, cried as he said his brother did not deserve to die that way. Russell, who lived close to his late brother, says he was asleep when the incident occurred. He says his niece did not live with her father but stayed over to welcome the new year with him. He believes his brother, who worked as a PH driver and also did odd jobs in the area, was killed over a woman.
I heard there was threat, but I did not witness that. Right. But I heard that I had threats. Right? I heard that I report also. But I cannot, I don't know for sure. That is what I hear. Yeah. Right?
Investigations are continuing into this incident. Meanwhile, the second murder for 2021 occurred at Mokoya Extension Road in Tunapuna around 9 on New Year's night. 43-year-old Arif Mohammed of Asaraf Road in Charleville died during a domestic dispute with 2 Venezuelan nationals who were said to be his relatives. A Venezuelan man and his 2 sons, aged 20 and 24, remain in police custody in connection with the incident. When CNC3 News visited the apartment complex where the murder took place, one man who witnessed the incident said he had just returned home when the brothers told him their uncle was on his way to their home to quote-unquote make trouble. The witness says by the time his family went inside, he saw the uncle coming with a blade in his hand, and the 2 brothers ran back to their apartment. But then they came back out of the apartment and they were attacked.
They end up in the corner of my house there, and there where this couple start, I tell them to tie him up because the police coming now because I already called the police. And I went to move my van. When I come back, I see they had him tied up already, and I don't know if they lash him or what, you know, so.
Police are continuing investigations into that incident as well. The decomposing body of an unidentified man was found in Maloney this morning. Residents of Building 20, Maloney Gardens, contacted police around 10 a.m. to report a foul stench emanating from the apartment. When officers entered the home, they found the deceased. It is not yet known how the man died. Crime scene officials visited and canvassed the area in an effort to retrieve evidence that could aid in determining the cause of death. While Trinidad and Tobago rang in the new year, many of this country's nationals are still outside trying to get permission to re-enter Trinidad and Tobago since the borders remain closed since March of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, some of those stranded nationals are very upset with the application process. Speaking to CNC3 News, one such national, Pamela Mitchell, says she went to the United States to shop for a relative's wedding and has been stuck there ever since, now for nearly a year.
I miss my daughter's wedding. I miss my son's appointment because he has to come over here for eye surgery. I miss Trinidad. I miss my children. I miss everything. It was horrible. Horrible. I had to sleep all over 3 days back. Right now, coming out from a friend who I spend the night with.
She says that the system to allow nationals to return must be looked at. She hopes to return to Trinidad and Tobago next week.
I came up here with my daughter to buy her wedding stuff because her wedding was supposed to be in Tobago in April. So I came up here to help her buy her wedding stuff to take home in March for the wedding in April. Now, why didn't you consider people who already bought the tickets so long to come home?
Many TNT nationals remain outside of these shores since the borders were closed on March 22nd, 2020. The case of 26-year-old Onika Charles is currently being reviewed by the Ministry of National Security. In 2019, Charles was a trainee firefighter when she fractured her left ankle at the Argyle training facility. Charles says since her accident, she has been unable to access corrective surgery at hospital. She also says that a pin placed on her ankle to stabilize the joint has caused a recurring bone infection. She has now spent close to a year confined to a hospital bed. Charles says she is in constant pain and has had several surgeries to her ankle. She also says she has been abandoned by both fire and health officials. CNC3 News contacted Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Glenn Joseph, who said the matter has just come to his attention and the ministry is investigating the matter. He says Charles's file will be reviewed and the matter dealt with. Meanwhile, the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission is advising the public that everything is under control at its Tobago office. This after a member of staff tested positive for COVID-19 last week. Several people have expressed concern about the safety of the TTEC bill payment and administrative office in Scarborough after the news started to circulate on social media. Acting Corporate Communications Manager Claire Cooper confirmed that there was a COVID-19 positive case, but says the Commission immediately took steps to sanitize all of its offices. She says they paid particular attention to high-touch and high-traffic areas. She says all of their buildings are regularly fogged and sanitized. Cooper says those who were identified via contact tracing have been advised to self-isolate. She is assuring the public that there is nothing to fear because TTEC has and will continue to observe all COVID-19 protocols to ensure the safety of customers and staff. You're watching the Weekend News here on CNC3. Stay with us, we've still got a lot more for you. Welcome back. Local livestock farmers say the international market will destroy the local industry if the government does not focus on local feed production. Livestock farmer and former president of the Trinidad and Tobago Farmers Union, Shiraz Khan, says because of the COVID-19 pandemic, countries around the world are making sure they feed themselves and they are not focused on exporting to other countries. Khan spoke to our Otto Carrington about the recent shortage of feed for local livestock in this country.
Last 2 weeks, many local livestock farmers were faced with a shortage of feed on the local market because of imported delays. However, former president of the Trinidad and Tobago Farmers Association, Shiraz Khan, says this is a sign of what will come in 2021 because many of the countries that we import feed from are now hoarding their produce. He says two things responsible for the shortage is climate change and COVID-19.
Where the farmers, the feed makers in America are hoarding their grains for their own people. And I always use this statement that if no one is going to cut their nose to spoil their face for Trinidad and Tobago. No one in the international market going to cut their nose to spoil their face for Trinidad and Tobago.
He says Trinidad and Tobago have to look at creating ways to provide its own feed. Khan says there is a proposal that could make this country self-sufficient and be able to provide feed for our local livestock. He says the proposal is to create a feed mill in Trinidad and Tobago that will create jobs and address foreign exchange shortage.
You're going to employ more than 5,000 people in this guava season. You're going to get farmers into production. You're going to have a whole system of production coming into employing more and more people as the time go by. The fish industry will go up.
Mr. Khan says they have submitted proposals to the Prime Minister's COVID-19 recovery team. Otto Carrington, CNC3 News.
Residents of Robert Village in Tableland are suffering because of a landslide that has taken their homes, half the roadway, damaged their cars and prevented public transport from operating. While a team from the Ministry of Works and Transport visited the area on Old Year's Day to start work, residents say they need a permanent solution. Soini Gray along with cameraman Christian De Silva have the details.
This landslide has been slipping for over 4 years now, according to residents. It was so bad, PTSC temporarily stopped its bus service to the area because the road could only accommodate one car at a time. Store owner Hansley Roger says they've complained about the state of the road to the former Member of Parliament and the Works Minister, but the road keeps on slipping.
The residents are so overwhelmed with this problem that they seem to feel like there have been enough complaints. It's just for the ministry to act now.
He says a ministry team visited the area on All Year's Day and patched the road. Since then, he has seen the return of the bus, but they want a permanent fix to the problem.
Yeah, because every time it sinks, they come and just put an iron wall there, and it keeps sinking, and they put a proper wall because see, last 10 years, how that wall on the both sides. So you end up on this side now sinking.
This vendor told us her home was damaged last year by the moving earth.
The ground actually cracked up as if it was a volcano. And then the posts in the house all shifted. So the house was like uneven.
She says it continues to move with the slipping soil. The Works Ministry has begun emergency works to the area and has widened the road to allow two-lane traffic. They say the slope has been stabilized, but restoration work will begin later in the month. Soini Gray, CNC3 News.
The home of murder victim Sherry-Ann Huggins is near completion in Dan Kelly Village in Laventille. The mother of 4 was murdered last year at that very home. With the help of the business community and the Muslim community, the family home is almost done. Today, the family celebrated Sherry-Ann's daughter's birthday and commemorated the new home. Otto Carrington was there.
It's a bittersweet day for Lorna St. Louis and her grandchildren in their Dan Kelly Laventille home. Months ago, it was the scene of a murder. Her adopted daughter, Sherry-Ann Huggins, was killed by a man known to her. The mother of 4 was killed in front of her children. Seeing the story and visiting the home, Good Samaritan Farouk Mohammed gathered the assistance of the Islamic community and the business sector to help rebuild their home for Sherry-Ann's 4 children. It was a house that was on the verge of collapse. Today was special as it didn't just celebrate their new home.
No, when the granddaughter's birthday, 8 birthdays today, so I decided to keep a little, well, I custom keeping up the birthdays, so I decided to keep it up. In spite of what the situation is, I still decided to just to make her share custom, so I just continue it.
This is not the first time we visited the home. Last year, we visited the home when it was about 50% completed. The man behind the project, Farouk Mohammed, says he's grateful and it's about giving to humanity. He says the community is integral and this is Sherry-Ann's daughter's first birthday after her mother's death.
We decided, however much we could help, we will help with the situation. It's just about the community coming up here and the children enjoying themselves.
Mohammed says as this project come to an end, he's already been called to assist with other projects.
A friend called me and told me about a family down in South down there with 18 children that was on the TV also. So Wednesday we have an appointment to go down and see them.
Otto Carrington, CNC3 News.
Thank you for that story, Otto. One day after Rock Hard Cement Trinidad Limited issued a release saying they would remain closed for 1 month, citing crippling tax measures imposed by the government as the reason. The Trade Ministry says it cannot comment on the matter because it is currently before the court. The ministry says it is regrettable that the importer has chosen to publish advertisements at the same time the importer filed proceedings in the court. The Trade Ministry says it is acting in the public's interest in the matter and will continue to monitor market conditions to ensure the economic well-being of this country and the welfare of all consumers. For its part, Rock Hard Cement says they are hoping to reopen next month. The Met Office has issued a Hazardous Sea Alert Yellow No. 1, which is currently in effect and will remain the entire weekend, which means all marine interests are advised to exercise extreme caution and bathers are advised to avoid the beaches. Our cameraman captured some brave souls in Maracas today. They seem to remain mostly in the shallow, though. And we can share this shot of a pretty big wave as it crashes to the shore. And there were several minor landslides along the way as well, felled trees that hindered traffic on the westbound lane between Saddle Road and Maracas Bay. We caught up with one of the persons who had been stuck in the traffic from his car.
So we had a pretty smooth run, and then we just started to see the traffic. So, of course, you know, this is the age of technology, and so the information started to come in that there was landslides up ahead, and that's what's causing the challenge.
Of course, he was not driving at the time of that interview. Thompson is also the president of the Fatima Old Boys Association, which is grappling with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and its effect on the annual major fundraiser, their Carnival Fete, that is. This year, they are having 3 nights of concerts, which will stream for free on the association's social media. He says he has noticed that people are eager for Carnival content.
We have continued to see the majority of online presence come from outside. You know, there seems to be a hunger for the content that we in Trinidad are producing.
Why not give CNC3 an interview while you're stuck in traffic, right? You can catch tonight's Strive On concert with Roy Cape All-Stars on the main stage, and tomorrow join us during the 7 p.m. newscast for a deeper investigation of how Carnival school fetes are turning to the digital space in response to the restrictions imposed by COVID-19 health protocols. Very interesting. I do look forward to those pieces. Here's what's coming up after the break.